Before I begin, I want to apologize for using PowerPoint instead of a dance group. So, to start, I am not your average teenager. I dress like your average teenager. I may look like your average teenager. I have an attitude like your average teenager. But I'm not. I stand before you today proud to say that I have a hearing loss. And I go to this wonderful school here at Allendale Columbia. But 40 years ago, I would have been sent to a residential school for the deaf. Today, the majority of deaf and hard of hearing students are mainstreamed, or in other words, put into normal schools. So, what seems to be the problem? Well, first let's take a look at some numbers. 3 out of every 1,000 babies born in the U.S. are born deaf and hard of hearing. 9 out of 10 of them do not have deaf and hard of hearing parents. There are 53 million youth in the U.S. aged 3 to 17. 0.1% of them are deaf and hard of hearing. 1 out of every 1,000 of them. And 86% of them are mainstreamed. So that accounts for, if you do the math, 44,000 students that are mainstreamed right now, if not a little more. So, that often leads to, with such a small deaf community among you, an even smaller community with teenagers, most of the students who go to these mainstream schools are often the only ones in the whole school who share this trait. I, myself, am the only one out of about 360 students who attend here. And this was all made possible by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, passed in 1975. This act allows students with disabilities to go to the normal public schools, equal access to free education. But there's a problem with that when it comes to deaf and hard of hearing teenagers. They often struggle with self-advocacy, but let me back it up here a bit. Why so focused on teenagers? As a kid, a deaf and hard of hearing teenagers and their services are provided by adults and those who take care of them, like teachers of the deaf and parents. But as they hit middle school and high school, that burden gets dropped on their doorstep, and they're often unprepared or nervous or not ready, or they suffer from self-esteem issues that they don't want to put up with it. So they don't want to say, I need an interpreter, I need a note taker. And being the only ones in the whole school would go through such difficulty, such as conversations, which is something a teenager likes to do. Or going on YouTube. Not a lot of videos on YouTube are captioned. And if they are, let's just say you get scarred for life. So, So everyday teenager things become difficult. They often feel isolated, alone, overwhelmed. And when the going gets rough, who do they have to turn to that really understands what they're saying? No one, chances are, because they're the only ones in the whole school. This year, I joined the swim team in high hopes, but it proved to be difficult, not by physical strain, but by coping with my hearing loss. In the pool area, it's noisy, it's echoey, the acoustics are terrible, voices are garbled. And so, without my glasses, and without my hearing aids, I'm often stuck doing the 100 breaths, deaf and blind. But I'm proud to say that I came out of it a better person because I'm now prepared with the obstacles I have to face with any other sport I choose to do. But the thing that troubles me the most is that there is a lot of negative labels on the deaf community. And it's often shown in the media, on TV, on the internet. And so, throughout our history, we have dealt with different kinds of isms, whether it's sexism, heterosexism, ageism, and racism. But all of that has toned down through the works and the protests of other people. But there's a new word evolving in the deaf community, and that word is Audism. Audism is the belief that having one's hearing makes them more superior than those who don't. And I have to say, autism is not okay. Deaf people get labeled with being dumb or stupid or unable to communicate. And we see on TV all the time with jokes about the deaf. And this has been happening since the very beginning of time. I'm not even going to pronounce it. This famous Greek philosopher in 364 BC said, "The deaf are incapable of reason," and thought they could not contain any intelligence whatsoever. And who gave us the telephone? Alexander Graham Bell. Many people look up to him and say, thank you for giving us telephones. I can now stay updated on the latest newsfeed. But I see him as the biggest hypocrite of all time. Let me tell you this. He had a deaf mother and a deaf wife. Okay, what's up with that? But he encouraged oralism, the education method forcing students who are deaf and hard of hearing to speak and not to sign. Signing was not allowed at all. Also, he wanted to prevent marriages among the deaf to prevent the deaf population from spreading. If I was his wife, I would have dumped his butt on the lawn and sew him some signs of my own. But today, this autism and oppression still goes on. Last year, when Hurricane Sandy hit Long Island, Lydia Callis, an interpreter for Mayor Bloomberg, signed the urgent messages the mayor had to get across to the deaf community. However, the hearing community took it as a joke, took stills of her, mocked her. And interpreters are a big part of the deaf community, and to mock them like that is really degrading. More recently, we had the mandala imposter. The nerve he had. So he just went up there thinking he could sign, but he just ruined a great memorial for thousands of deaf people around the world. And we have all seen those videos where the child gets their cochlear implant activated, and they hear for the very first time. Great, right? Not. Many parents see cochlear implants as the cure to deafness. And I pity the children who have to go through the surgical risk. That is costly, and because the parents don't seem to accept this unique trait they have. And it also destroys the residual hearing you have left in your ear. And it's permanent. So if it doesn't work out, which it sometimes does not work out, it's permanent. You can't go back. And sadly, in August 2013, a deaf customer went to Starbucks in New York City to talk with their acquaintance. When the employee of Starbucks heard his voice, he started mocking him and laughing at him hysterically. And when he was asked to see the manager, he got enraged and told the deaf customer, "Get out and you are never welcome here again." Luckily, the deaf guy filed a lawsuit, and Starbucks is now working on making sure this never happens again. But how can you blame all these teenagers who face self-esteem issues that don't want to self-advocate for themselves when they are living in a world where people don't accept them for who they are, or they mock them, or they make fun of them? So I call on you guys today to tell you that I want you guys to nurture deaf and hard of hearing teenagers and children. If you know of one, teach them sign language. Don't put barriers on them. I'll leave with you today with a quote from Nelson Mandela, whose memorial was tainted forever by an imposter, but his legacy remains untouched. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedoms of others. So will you help me enhance the freedom of deaf and hard of hearing individuals in their efforts to make sure they get equality? Because after all, we are just your average teenagers. Thank you.